Vice President Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo on Tuesday said that while the government has not gone ahead with setting up its promised Commission of Inquiry to investigate the March 2, 2020 general and regional elections, it will soon take steps to amend existing laws to ensure that there are safeguards and penalties against electoral fraud. He envisions that the amendments will allow for the statements of polls to be published in the newspapers, official gazette, and online before the count commences. And Jagdeo noted that the amendments that will be drafted soon will also clearly outline penalties for electoral fraud and how recounts must be conducted.
At this point in time, we are looking at the Representation of People Act. And we are drafting now the amendments to that act, or we will be drafting shortly amendments to the act that will ensure transparency in the count and a clear methodology as to how the count must proceed, leaving no ambiguity. So, for example, the statements of poll, when they are received before the count starts, we want them published. We want them published in the newspapers, in the gazette, and posted online. So even before the count starts, the industrious Guyanese can then go see the SOPs and they can calculate who won the elections.
But even with these legislative changes, Jagdeo believes that the Guyana Elections Commission GCOM must remove from within its staff those persons who are currently before the courts on charges of being involved in attempts to rig the 2020 elections. He singled out the Chief Elections Officer, Keith Lowenfield, and his deputy, Roxanne Myers.
But we have made it clear, apart from those changes, that with Lowenfield and Roxanne Myers there, you cannot have free and fair elections. Cannot have free and fair elections. This is a red line for us. That the two of them, you cannot have free and fair elections. They have demonstrated every single external group and people locally know they try to steal the elections.
Jagdeo said the government is currently looking for persons from abroad to sit on the COI, but he fears that if the report from the COI is adverse against the APNU-AFC coalition, then their leaders might simply disregard it by leveling claims of bribery against the government, as was done during the 2020 elections. Notwithstanding, the vice president said the government was definitely going ahead with the COI. The governing People's Progressive Party Civic has always maintained that several persons within GCOM, including Lowenfield, Myers, and the Region 4 returning officer Claremont Mingo, colluded to rig the elections to keep the APNU-AFC in office. That led to a 5-month-long delay in declaring the winner, while political parties frequented the courts and were later involved in a national recount exercise. Lowenfield came under scrutiny for preparing his elections report on March 5, 2020, which included inflated figures presented to him by Mingo. If Mingo's report was used, the country would have been cheated of the real victors of the elections, and instead David Granger and his coalition would have been sworn in for a second term. Lowenfield and Myers would have known who the true winners of the elections was, since they received the original statements of polls from all of the country's polling stations.